Hello, we're going to look at fractions next in this section, fractions and powers and roots in this section. So starting off with the fractions then. So first thing we need to know is how to convert between mixed numbers and top-heavy fractions. Being able to convert between these two, very useful. So mixed numbers basically means I've got 3 whole ones and 2/3. If I want to make that into a top-heavy fraction, well, I'm dealing with thirds, so 3 whole ones is going to be 3/3 is 1 whole one, 3/3 is another whole one, 3/3 is another whole one. In effect, I've got 9/3 there. So the little shortcut is 3 times 3 is 9, and then I add the top number 2. So 3 times 3 is 9, add 2 is 11 over 3. So you multiply the whole part by the bottom, add the top. And the denominator doesn't change. The denominator stays as thirds. With this top-heavy fraction, well, this is a bit of one that I could have already simplified to 10 over 3. And then I want to say how many of the bottom number go into the top one. I'm basically dividing. This means 10 divided by 3. So how many 3's go into 10? Well, that is 3 3's go into 10, and then there's 1 left over. And again, the denominator doesn't change, it stays as thirds. Right, on to the 4 operations. The 4 operations with fractions. When we're adding and subtracting, the main thing to remember is that we need a common denominator. The bottom part needs to be in common. So we find a multiple of 3 and 5, that's 15. And then I say, what do I times the 3 by to get 15? I've multiplied it by 5. And I do the same to the top. Whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So I need to times the top by 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Here I've times the bottom by 3, so I'm going to do the same to the top. 1 times 3 is 3. And then you just add the tops. So 10 plus 3 is 13. And the bottom stays as 15ths. There's my answer. Subtracting, exactly the same principle. We need a common denominator. Well, I can just multiply, keep this one the same, or times it by 1 if you prefer, times this one by 2, and I get 2 over 10. And then the only difference is you subtract the tops. So in this case, 7 minus 2 is 5, 5 over 10. But always remember to simplify your answers. I can divide top and bottom by 5, so this is a half. Right, multiplying, this is actually the easiest of all of the operations. I just do top times top. 3 times 2 is 6. Bottom times bottom. 5 times 3 is 15. Easy, done. Dividing, not quite so easy. With dividing, we're going to use inverse operations. So instead of dividing by 3/4, what we do is we change the divide to a multiply, and we flip the second fraction upside down. And then we say, now we have a multiply that we can do. 5 times 4 is 20. 9 times 3 is 27. So it's crucial there that you multiply by the inverse when you're dividing. So the reciprocal, sorry. Multiply by the reciprocal, which is the opposite. Swap them upside down. Let's look at a tricky example with fractions then. So if I'm dividing here, first thing I need to do is go top heavy. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. I've got 10/3. On this one, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So I've got 9 over 2. Next step is I need to deal with the divide. So I'm going to keep the 10/3 the same, but change it to multiply by the reciprocal. Then I can say 10 times 2 is 20, and 3 times 9 is 27. And there we go. I'll simplify that, so that's my fractions sorted. That's a quick run through of all of that. Right, on to powers and roots. Things that we might need to know are things like how I would type 3 to the power 4 in a calculator. Well, I could do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. That wouldn't be too bad. But now imagine it's 3 to the power of 12. It's going to take me a while. I might make a mistake. I might miss a 3. So we need to find the power of button. So I'm going to try and just highlight for you some key buttons here. If I want to do 3 to the power of 12, I'm going to use this button here, that little hat. So I get 3 hat button 12, and that would do me 3 to the power 12. There's also, if I press shift, I can use this shift button to do any root. So if I wanted to find out, let's say the 5th root of 32, is that right? 2, 4, 8, 16, yep. 5th root of 32, I can press that shift button, and then here you'll see this kind of X root symbol. And so we type 5, shift the little hat thing so that we get this, and then I type in my 32. And that should, if it all goes well, give you the number 2. So check that works for you. Have a little play with those buttons. That's powers and roots on a calculator.